All right, I think we're live. Let me just double check the audio. Testing, testing. Check the mic. Testing, testing. I think we're live. Okay. All right. So we're good. So today we are going to be analyzing a deal I saw in a Facebook group today. If you guys do want to see the full screen version, please make sure you guys are able to see if I can zoom out a little bit so you guys see the deal. Saw this deal on Facebook, decided to just quickly analyze it and look at the North Las Vegas market. So looks like they put in the ARV of 453. Purchase price was $422,000. There's a loan balance of 380. They want cash to close $42,000, which includes $17,691 in arrears. And arrears means that usually, as an example, if someone is at risk of foreclosure and they have not been making their monthly payments, they have a essentially what I will call another word is backlog of payments that is due to the bank. And that typically is what arrears mean. So they still owe $17,000 if you were to buy this property subject to this existing finance, which means you first have to catch up all of the payments that they have been behind on before that loan will becomes quote unquote current or up to date or not in delinquency or not in default. So once you catch back up, then you can continue taking over the payments on the existing loan while the loan remains in that person's name, but the deed will transfer over to you because in the subject to deal, you are taking over ownership on the deed or on the title as the owner, but the old loan remains in the seller's name. So, and we go through assignment fee. There is a $15,000 assignment fee, so that on total that equals $57,000. I have the PITI, which is principal and interest tax insurance of 2,135, and what? Oh, interesting. It's a 55 plus community. So this is going to be interesting. Let's just kind of take a look at this. But for the most part, it looks like it's pretty new. If it's built in 2021, that must mean it's a pretty new home. But a 3.25% sounds interesting, right? It sounds attractive. So let's see how we're going to look at the deal. First things first, we always look at the deal and we always try to figure out, let's look it up on Redfin and or Zillow, whatever you like to choose. I like the Redfin UI user interface better. But what I want to go through is simply look at the condition of the home, great floors, the paint looks fine. I don't know, oh, there's a hot tub there, interesting enough. That looks like one bedroom. There's almost like another bedroom right here. Or is that a sunroom? Bathroom looks great. Kitchen looks great. That's a closet. They have another bedroom. I feel like this is almost a 3 bedroom home, even though it says it's listed at 2. So that's gonna be interesting, right? Let's try and figure out why is it a 2 bed, 2 bath compared to a that's interesting. All right, it's a 55 plus community. Let's get the county. What we always typically do is look for the county. This is in Clark County. All right, cool. Let's take a quick look at the street view so I can see whether or not there's a lot of trashed up place. But if this is a community that's been built in 2021, usually it's either in single infill lot that people build if it's built that recent, or it's usually like a subdivision that all got built at once, which all these homes look like it's a relatively similar model for the most part. So I'm assuming that the subdivision was built recently. All right. Next thing we want to do is the environment looks pretty good. So what I typically do is I go to tophap.com, tophap.com. On TopHap, I plug in the address and then you can kind of come down here to this area. When you click on neighborhood, what I'm looking for is the crime score. When you click on neighborhood, okay, great. It looks like it's a very safe neighborhood, which makes sense because it's a 55 plus community. Maybe it's gated, maybe it's not. But a 32 is really good. I live in an area where the crime index is about like 80, high 80s, low 90s. So 32 is essentially safer than my home. And let's see if we can look up on Google Maps where it is. So if you know Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Strip is right here in this area. So North Las Vegas kind of gets into what sometimes I know as the working class. Like this was the area I was looking at for some co-living or pad splits, but this property looks a little bit further north near the VA Medical Center. Okay, so this is really, really far north. Is there any transit around here? Hmm. All right. Next thing we want to do is get the FMR, the fair market rents. In order to do that, you guys can go to HUD FMR. When you go to HUD FMR, you can click on the first link that's right there. And when you scroll down, there's a section called Access to Small Area FMRs in the FMRIL lookup area. Then you click up Lookup FY 2024 Small Area FMRs. And now you're able to click on the state and the city. And for those of you watching on Instagram, you guys ever want a full screen version, you guys can always go to the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/at Kent underscore HE, Kent underscore he. 89086. So this gives you the fair market rents, which is typically the ceiling rent that the federal government has said that they will pay for rent on this property. You can see that right here for the zip code by bedroom count, which is 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. They don't care about bathroom counts as much, so bedroom counts is definitely more important. They're saying the fair market rent or FMR is 1,800 for a 2 bedroom and 2,540 for a 3 bedroom. All right. So I'm going to note those numbers down. When I note those numbers down, I want to make sure that I am using those numbers to compare it to the market rent. How do we get to the market rent? We go to affordablehousing.com. When you go to affordablehousing.com, you can go to this section. It's called the owner section, and you go to the market rent estimator. After you do that, you can plug in the address right here in the address section and plug in your bedroom count. When you plug in your bedroom count, you can go get estimates, and this is usually a cheat code. You can probably look on Redfin or Zillow for any signs of available properties for rent, but this is just one way. I do it as a quick and dirty analysis because what I just want to figure out is whether or not it's worth my time to go deeper, and two, whether or not I actually want to send out a contractor out there because any good contractor is very, very busy, and you don't typically want to waste their time with a project that isn't a deal. And it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, right? The more you tell people to go out there, the less they'll probably ignore you. And so I'm getting the rents for 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. And I'm sharing this one screen at a time because I'm at my old parents' place and this is the same affordable housing rental I grew up in. Internet's a little bit slower, so I can't share the entire screen for some reason, otherwise it lags. So I'm going to share all the numbers and how I got all these numbers first, and then I'll show the Excel file. So what I'm doing right now is I looked at the rents for 2 bedrooms and also 3 bedrooms. You can kind of see how it lays out the county, the city, the zip, and for 25 units within a 0.25 mile radius, on average, what are 3 bedrooms renting out for? You can kind of see the 3 bedrooms renting out for 1987, and the 2 bedrooms were renting out for six, if I remember correctly, was 1645. Okay. Now, the reason you want to get the 1645 here and you want to compare it to FMR is because there is a test. It's called the rent reasonableness test, which means that even though that the rent ceiling is $1,800 for a 2 bedroom home in the zip code 89086, the housing authority or the section 8 authority or the public housing authority, whatever they might be called, will typically say, hey, just because the rent ceiling is 1,800 does not mean we will let you charge above and beyond what the market rent is, because they don't want you charging extra rent to people just because they are simply voucher holders. So I would underwrite this property using 1645 as my base case scenario because that's technically a market rent. So I assume that I can get that rent. So it's not going to be $1,000 or $1,500. I'm going to use 1645 because that's what the data says. Then I'm also going to underwrite using 1,800 because now I know what my upside is to the rent, which means that, hey, even though I might only be able to charge 1645, if I assume that rents will continue going up, then I assume that eventually I will be able to charge $1,800 for rent. All right, cool. So I'm going to note all these numbers down. I'm going to plug all these numbers into Excel so you guys can follow it. So just to recap what we have done so far, we have looked at the property. We have looked at all the photos. We have done a street view. We have gotten the crime index score to verify that we didn't see any big problems on a Google Map Street View, but does that correspond with a data point from a website like tophat.com where it also indicates that the crime score is very low? Then we got the fair market rent, which we got from by Googling HUD FMR, going to the small area FMR lookup and picking the state and the county, and that allowed us to get the fair market rents by zip code by bedroom count. All right. Then we got the market rents, and we went to get the market rents by going to affordablehousing.com. We went to the owner section, clicked on market rent estimator, and then we put in the address and the bedroom count, and we noted down the market rent for the rent number on the very far right, which typically gives you 25 units, but for some reason this is only giving me 2 units. Maybe there's just not that many 2 bedroom homes that are available for rent. Another situation where we've seen that come up is if the property is in a very rural location and there aren't a lot of properties there. Okay, so now that we've gotten all these numbers, we're going to go ahead and plug in the numbers through Excel. All right, so let me stop sharing this screen and I'm going to start sharing the Excel page. 1 second. Stop sharing, share the Excel. Boom. All right, so we're going to plug some numbers in. And we already went through the deal details on the other page, but I'm going to verbalize them as I kind of go through and plug in the numbers because I have it side by side. So what we have here is that the purchase price is going to be $422,000. Then there was a loan balance of $380,000, 380,000. So I'm gonna plug that in right on the right hand side. The interest rate was 3.25, 3.25, amortized over 30 years. And this property was bought in 2021. So I'm just going to leave that as March 2021. Those dates don't exactly matter. We are going to grab the rent. So like I said earlier, we are going to put in the rents of 1645. And at the bottom of my sheet here, you can tell that I've already plugged in numbers for FMR 89096 for 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom, which you got from the HUD FMR website. I populated all the numbers from affordablehousing.com for 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. The reason I'm doing this is so that I want my investors or my partners to know what the research has been done so that they don't have to go and research every single data element in the spreadsheet again because they're very familiar with how I analyze deals and they're very familiar with how I look at certain properties. So as we go through the details here, if you remember the pictures looked pretty much turnkey. Okay. So in the photo right now, I'm going to assume that there are no termite issues. Again, this is a line item by line item calculator that tries to estimate some sort of rehab expenses by line item. Now, the only thing I'm going to put in here is that the floors look great for the home, look pretty new. I might just leave in some money to paint the property, and the property looks like it's in pretty good shape. I might just only put in like half the square footage for painting because it looks pretty good in the photos. So I'm going to do equals 1660 divided by 2. So I'm going to assume that it cost me $3 a square foot to paint the home. At $3 a square foot to paint the home, that results in roughly a $2,500 quote unquote paint job. And as I go up in here, I'm going to assume that there's some landscaping stuff, but I am going to assume that there is no roof issues because if the house has been built only in 2021, which is 2 years ago, I'm gonna assume that the roof is in pretty good shape. Normally, for older homes, I always put in $1,500 for roof repairs, but in this scenario, I'm just making a judgment call and making some estimates. So, all in all, this equals a total rehab so far of $39.90. I always add in a 20%, so I'm gonna be roughly about a $47.88, so almost a $5 grand rehab, quote unquote, just in case there's some knick-knack things that kind of come up and I need to use that money to get the property rent ready, quote unquote. Okay. All right. So now we have a loan for $380,000. Let's see what we got here. All right. The PITI. Let's see if I can get the PITI. The PITI is 2135.58. So I'm gonna go to the property tax line and go 2135.98 minus the principal and minus the interest. And I'm doing that because I am trying to figure out and back into what my property taxes insurance might be, because the principal and interest, they didn't give me the breakout for that number. So that's why I just took what has been disclosed to me by the wholesaler of using $2,135, and I'm subtracting the principal interest to give me my assumption for what the property tax number will be for this property. And then at the very bottom, I'm adding an extra $30 for per month for the insurance premium, just because usually this might have been a primary residence home, but if I'm using it as a rental property, typically the insurance cost is going to cost a little bit more. So I am adding extra $30 onto the insurance cost. Now, again, if you're just joining, please make sure you go to youtube.com/@Kent_HE for the full screen version. I'm not able to share the full screen because I am at my parents' place and just a little bit slower and it just lags a little bit more. So now that I got these numbers, I got the purchase price, I got the renovation, I got the rent, I got the PITI, which includes the property taxes. I now need to plug in my entry fee. If you remember earlier, it says the cash to close is $42,000 and the assignment fee was going to be $15,000. So if I bump the assignment fee to $15,000 right now and the cash to close, which is 17,691.49 in arrears, and then the cash to seller is going to be $42,000 minus the arrears. So there's going to be 24 grand to the seller, $17,000 in arrears, $15,000 in assignment fees, and don't forget, there's still some closing costs here, unless they didn't include it. But I want to leave in maybe just 2% right now for closing costs. Because what if they included the closing costs in that cash or seller one? Sometimes people don't do a really good job at disclosing like what's included and what's not included. So all in all, now this is almost a $70,000 entry fee for this property. And now, boom, you can see that after you put in 10% maintenance, which means that you're setting aside money every single month to anticipate repairs on your property for either the HVAC, the roof, because eventually the roof will wear out, right? So you got to start putting aside some money right now, because a roof can typically cost from 8 to 12 to 15 grand sometimes. So you got to set money every single month in anticipation that the roof will need to get replaced at some point. Now, I also put in 8% for property management. I have nothing in here for sewer, but there is an HOA on this property. So let's see if I can get the HOA. HOA is $198 from Redfin website. 198. So this is overwhelmingly not even close to being a deal, and that allows me to quickly understand like, hey, this is probably not worth my time. And now I can understand why I was posted on a Facebook group, because unless you're buying this home to live in or rent out on your own, you don't really want to buy a home that's going to cost you $1,065 every single month just to own it. That seems a little ridiculous from an investment perspective. And this is assuming a purchase price of 422 with a 4788 rehab, assuming it's a $15,000 cash to seller. I have a $15,000 assignment with a $42,000 cash to seller roughly. So that is definitely not a deal. But even if you play around with it, because you're so far off, like I'm not even gonna underwrite it using the best case scenario of the $1,800, but we could underwrite it using 2540. Let's see what happens, right? Well, you can't use 2540 because the market rent is 1987, but we could do 1987 and see how far off we are again. And 1987, that assumes that you have to turn one of the bedrooms into a legal bedroom into a 3 bedroom, which you might struggle to find a renter that qualifies for a 3 bedroom in a 55 plus community, because then that means that the household has to have at least 3 people. So it might be like a family of um, parents and great grandparents. I'm just speaking from our perspective, or like just elderly folks and their parents, right? So that could be one scenario where you might have a 3 person household, but that might be a little bit more rare, and you might struggle to find a renter that qualifies for a 3 bedroom property. So at 794, that's a terrible cash flow number. But if you do convert it into a additional three bedroom, I would at least add another $10,000 to convert that extra bedroom, because I don't think you need to frame anything, but you need to figure out how to make that extra bedroom or one of those open spaces into a legal bedroom. You might have to get some permitting so that it gets recognized as that. So I just want to put aside at least 10 grand for that purchase price, and that's going to equal to a negative 11.9% cash and cash return, 422, and then my rehab is now 14,788, and everything else is still remaining the same. So that number still doesn't work. But what if I go to 2540? If I turn this to 2540 for my ceiling rent at a three-bedroom property, this is still not going to be a deal because I'm still losing $357 a month. So for me, this is overall not a deal unless you are trying to live in this property yourself and you're trying to do that. But I always go through all these things and try to figure out and tell myself what is my buy box, right? Because I don't want to just analyze the deal and just analyze the deal. I want to start setting aside some criteria so that I didn't waste all my effort analyzing this deal for no reason. So for me to do that, I have to determine my quote unquote buy box. Well, what if I'm able to find a three-bedroom home that only require and it was $322,000, and I lower the let me lower the principal balance to 280. What does my principal need to be? Let's see what the tax is going to be. 371, 198. 371, 190 equals 198 times 1.2. I'm just messing around with the videos right now and trying to figure out gonna what does the deal actually look like in these scenarios. So that is going to equal to 322 times 0.25, and then my loan balance is going to be my asking price minus my cash to seller. And if I'm able to get and if for some reason my interest rate is still 8.5% for a conventional on the market deal, what does that look like? And this is kind of hard to cash flow at these prices. Well, let me zero at HOA. It has to be not in an HOA. This is gonna have to be a $250,000. Well, let's zero the arrears. I'm just trying to figure out what's gonna cost me for me to figure out what my buy box needs to look like in North Las Vegas. So I get a home for $200,000, and that is a three-bedroom home. So I'm able to rent it for 2540 in my best case scenario. I'm not loving this area. I don't think North Las Vegas is for me. Unless I get a loan that is 3.5. Okay, 2.5, 2, do 180. I would need to buy a home subject to a three-bedroom for $180,000, assuming I can rent out for 2540. Plug this number into it. So if I assume that I can get the max rent, which is very, very optimistic, I can cash flow $899 per month to get a 17% return, assuming I'm buying a purchase price conventionally on the market, right? But this is assuming I'm taking over a sub two loan at 135 at 2%, 14,788, no assignment. Cash to seller is 25%, and my sub two loan interest rate is 2%. Sub two loan interest is 2%. So this tells me that this market is really, really far off, because if the ARV or the purchase price is around 400 grand, chances are I'm not going to be able to achieve it. So I'm probably going to stay away from this zip code in North Las Vegas because it seems like the numbers are really, really far off. But hey, it doesn't hurt that I analyzed a deal. I got some semblance of what a deal might look like. But this is the non exciting part of real estate. People like to flash about how much money they make on every single deal, but they don't really talk about the hundreds of deals that they analyze that were not deals. So the whole reason I do this is so that you guys can develop good habits with me to analyze one deal every single day. Because what they say is that if you spend just 18 minutes a day over the course of the year, you probably spend about 100 hours underwriting deals every single day. And when you do that, you become better at underwriting affordable housing rentals or real estate deals, especially in the single family world, than 95% of the population. That's great. And all you have to do is just spend 18 minutes a day analyzing deals. And this allows you to get comfort around, hey, as you do enough scenarios and you look up enough properties and get enough buy boxes, that allows you to really, really understand what does a deal look like so that you don't have any excuses anymore. Meaning sometimes I get responses from folks that says, hey, I can't invest in real estate because I don't have the capital. Well, you can go raise capital. Now, this is not a solicitation for investments, but when you go to an investor and say, hey, I got a deal, I got a deal, I got a deal, they're going to be like, why do you think this is a deal? And I hope at that point in time, you guys would have looked at the same deals I looked at every single day, using the same spreadsheet, using the same verbiage even. I don't really care. You are definitely allowed to copy me. And you can go to them and say, well, I know this is a deal because I have looked at 100 deals and they were all not deals before I came across this one. And you will have an undeniable track history for your investor, but also for yourself. Because I had a lot of fear when I was getting to real estate because I didn't know what to do or what a deal looked like, even if it came get plopped on my table and slapped me across the face. I did not know what a deal looked like. But after analyzing so many deals, I finally had the confidence to look backwards and say, hey, I have an undeniable track history of doing the work and analyzing all these deals because it's not only for you to raise capital, it's also for you to get over your own analysis paralysis and convince yourself that you have put in the work and you have done the work and you can tell yourself that you are better than 95% of the population because you spent that 18 minutes every single day analyzing a deal and putting it onto your own YouTube channel. And for those of you that are camera shy, you don't even need to put your face on the camera. Like right now, my internet is too slow, so I can't even put my face on this page. But that's okay. That allows you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, one step at a time. And I hope you guys analyze the same exact deal tomorrow on your own YouTube channel using the same spreadsheet. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm so thankful for you guys tuning into the channel and watching me underwrite deals. Without people like you guys, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So thank you so much for caring about the affordable housing mission. I really, really appreciate it. Um, I just don't know what life would have liked if I would have been if my parents never got this affordable housing apartment that I'm in right now that I'm streaming from during the Thanksgiving holidays. And I would have never became the person I am today so that I'm able to kind of serve others and pay it forward. So DM me your email on Instagram at invest with Kent He. Again, this is not a solicitation for investments. I'm simply showing you guys the work that I'm doing every single day. That's not exciting, but it's so crucial for you guys to learn the skill and so you guys can get comfortable around analyzing deals every single day and seeing whether or not it works as a Section 8 rental. I have nothing to hide, nothing to sell you. So have an amazing Sunday, everybody. I hope you guys are able to spend some quality time with the family on Thanksgiving weekend. I am going to be doing this for another 40, 45 days. And yeah, please leave a comment or send some feedback if you thought this was helpful. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully you guys can also share the YouTube channel, youtube.com slash at Kent underscore HE with anybody else that you believe are interested in affordable housing rental or just want to help others through housing. I think everybody says they want to help others, but they never get specific enough. I have chosen that I want to help working class individuals via housing. And by doing that, I'm able to kind of refine my skills at underwriting and share the skills and the process with all of you guys. And I'm just trying to get better every day. I don't claim to be an expert at affordable housing. I'm just really passionate about it. I just love it. And I just love helping others and serving others through housing. So have an amazing Sunday, everybody. I'm so, so blessed that you joined me for this live today. And I will talk to all of you guys again tomorrow. Have a good one.